So 1.3, we're going to talk about equations of a line. So we have two different types of equations, two different forms. One is slope-intercept form, so that's y equals mx plus b. We use slope-intercept form when we're given the slope and the y-intercept. So m would be our slope, and b is our y-intercept. Our other form is point-slope form, so we use point-slope form when we're given the point and a slope. So our point would be x1 comma y1, and our slope is the m. So for each of these equations, we have to have our slope in order to plug into our equation of a line. Sometimes the slope's going to be given to us, sometimes it's not. So if our slope's not given to us, we have the slope formula. So to find the slope, we would use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is the equation for the slope. So in example 1, we need to write an equation of each line with the given slope and y-intercept. So if it gives us the slope and y-intercept, we can just plug into slope-intercept form. So our slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. It's our favorite form. So I need the slope, which is what I'm going to plug into m, and I need the y-intercept, and that's what I'm going to plug into b. So when I plug in my slope and my y-intercept, I get y equals negative 3x plus 1/2. That would be my equation of a line. Let's do the next one. So again, we're going to plug it into y equals mx plus b because it gives us the slope and the y-intercept. So my slope is going to get plugged into m, and my y-intercept is going to get plugged into b. So I have y equals 0x minus 2. Well, what is 0x? 0. So in order to simplify this, or to write it in the most simplified form, we would just get rid of that because it's just 0. So y equals negative 2. This would be our equation of a line. You don't write the 0x in there because it's just 0. You can get rid of it. On the next page, we're going to do the same thing. We need to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form, but here it gives us the line. So in slope-intercept form, we need the slope and the y-intercept. So there's a couple different ways that we can find the slope. We can either use our slope formula, so that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or we know that slope is rise over run. So we can just count to find our slope. So with my graph here, my line, I'm going to count from one point to the other. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my rise would be 6. And then my run would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So rise over run would be 6 over 4. Can we simplify 6 over 4? What does it simplify to? 3 over 2. So I have my slope. Now I need my b, my y-intercept. Where does my graph cross the y-axis at? What value? So where does this line cross the y-axis? At negative 3. Crosses the y-axis at negative 3. So my b would be negative 3. So I'm going to plug this into my slope-intercept form. I have y equals mx plus b. So my slope is going to go into m, and my y-intercept is going to go into b. So I have y equals 3 over 2x minus 3. That would be our equation of a line. All right, let's do b. So again, we're doing the same thing. We need to plug it into slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b. So I need to figure out what the m is and what the b is. So first, let's find our slope. We can count to find our slope. We can do rise over run. Be careful here. Our line is decreasing, so what does that tell us about the slope? It's going to be negative. So we go down for our slope 1, 2, 3. So our run would be negative 3. Our rise, sorry, would be negative 3. Oops, because it's rise over run. Our run is how far we go left and right. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So our run is 4. So our line is decreasing, so we know our slope is negative. So our slope is negative 3 over 4. Now let's find our B. B is where our line crosses the y-axis. So where does our line cross the y-axis? At what value? 2. Perfect. Right here at 2. So our B is 2. So let's plug it in. We're going to plug in our slope and our y-intercept. So y equals negative 3 over 4x plus 2. Right, next, example 3. It asks us to write an equation in point-slope form of a line that passes through the point negative 8, 3 and has a slope of 1/4. So point-slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So our point is going to be our x1 and y1, and our slope is our m. So we're just going to plug everything in. So I have y minus 3 is equal to 1/4 times x minus negative 8. Well, what do you think the minus negative 8 turns into? A plus. So notice how when we plug in our numbers, it went from being a positive 3, and in our equation we have minus 3, and it went from being a negative 8, in our equation we have a plus 8. So the signs always flip for the point. It doesn't flip for the slope, but when you plug in your x1 and y1, the signs flip. So this would be our equation in point-slope form. Let's look at the next one. Here we want to write an equation of a line in point-slope form that passes through 1, 3 and has a slope of 2. So point-slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So our point is going to be our x1 and y1, and our slope is m. So let's plug everything in. So my equation would be y. What would come next? Minus 3 is equal to 2 times x minus 1. Perfect. So this would be our equation in point-slope form. Let's say that this question asked us for slope-intercept form. What do you think I would have to do? Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. What do you think we would do to put this in slope-intercept form? Awesome. We want to get this equation to be y equals. So I want to rearrange everything, move it to the right side. Yeah. And get it to be y equals. So let's distribute the 2. So we have y minus 3 is equal to 2x minus 2. And then again, we want to get that y all by itself. So I'm going to add 3 to move it to the other side. So y equals 2x plus 1. So we move it to the other side and combine it with its like term. So it gets added to the number there. So this would be slope-intercept form. So to take it from point-slope form, all we have to do is rearrange our equation. We don't have to plug anything else in. We just rearrange to make it y equals mx plus b form. All right, in B, we need to write an equation of a line in point-slope form that passes through the points 2, 1, and 5, 7. Well, point-slope form, we need what 2 things? A point and slope. Did it give me the slope here? No. So first thing I want to do is find the slope. So we're going to use our slope formula. So our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to label my points just to make it easier for me to plug in so I am careful with which one goes where. So my first point will be my first point, so x1, y1. And then my second point will be x2, y2. So let's plug everything in. We have 7 minus 1 over 5 minus 2. So we get 6 over 3. What does 6 over 3 simplify to? 2. So our slope is 2. Now we have a point and we have the slope, so we can plug it in. We can use either one of our points and the slope. So my equation would be y, what would come next? Minus 1 is equal to? 2 times? X minus 2. Awesome. We used our first point. That's our x1 and y1. And our 2 is our slope. So we just plugged everything in. So this is point slope form. What if the question asked us for slope intercept form? What would we need to do? What do we do first? Distribute the 2. So we have y minus 1 is equal to 2x minus 4. What would we do next? Add the 1. So y is equal to 2x minus 3. So this would be slope-intercept form. The one in purple is our point slope form. The question just asked us for point slope form, but in case on a test or quiz that it asks for slope intercept form, we know how to take it from point slope and rearrange it into slope intercept. So for example 4, it says the graph shows the distance asteroid 2012 DA14 travels in x seconds. We have to write an equation of a line and interpret the slope. So that's the first thing we want to do. Write an equation of a line. It'll be part 1 to this question. We're going to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form because we can see where our graph crosses the y-axis, so we know what our y-intercept is. So we're going to make y equals mx plus b the form that we use. So I need to figure out what my slope is and figure out what my y-intercept is. How do I find the slope? How can I find the slope here? Rise over run. So we can count. Be careful with your numbers on the axis here. It goes up 4 each time. So this will be 24 is our rise. And we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be 24 over 5. Now for our B, where does our line cross the y-axis? At 0. So our B would be? So when I plug it in, I get y equals 24 over 5x plus 0. Do we need to put the plus 0 there? No. So y equals 24 over 5x. That's our equation of a line. That is the first part of this question. Any questions on how we got that? Second part of this question is interpret the slope. So what's our slope? What's our slope? 24 over 5. So our slope is 24 over 5. 24 is our y value. That's how much we used in our run. What is that 24 talking about? 24 what? Miles. Use the words from the graph. We're talking about 24 miles. Miles is what the y is talking about. So 24 miles. And then what's the 5 talking about? Seconds. So our asteroid is going 24 miles every 5 seconds. We want to figure out how fast the asteroid's going every 1 second. We want to find just the single unit. So let's divide 24 by 5 to find out how fast it's moving in miles per second. So 24 divided by 5. 5 goes into 24 how many times? 4. We got 20, so 4 left over. I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. How many times does 5 go into 40? 8. So that means our asteroid is moving 4.8 what? Miles per second. This is the answer to the second part of the question. When you interpret the slope, you just need to divide, if your slope's a fraction, to figure out what the exact unit is. Okay, third part to this question. Says about how long does it take the asteroid to travel that distance? Oh, first part of it says the asteroid came within 17,200 miles of Earth in February 2013. About how long does it take the asteroid to travel that distance? So the distance that we're looking at is 17,200 miles. 17,200 miles. Do you think I'm going to plug that into the X or into the Y? Why? Because it's talking about miles. This number, 17,200, is talking about miles. The miles, we said, goes with the Y. So I'm going to plug that into the Y in my formula. So I have 17,200 is equal to 24 over 5x. So I plug it into the Y because it's talking about miles. Now with my equation here, I'm going to solve for x. So we can multiply both sides times 5. So the 5 will cancel out with our denominator there. You can use a calculator for the questions on the homework. So we have 17,200 times 5. So that gives us 86,000 is equal to 24x. What should I do next to find what x is equal to? Divide by 24. So we get 3,583 about is equal to x, which is the time it takes the asteroid to travel that distance. So we're talking about 3,583 what? No, not miles. Seconds. Because we're talking about x, which x is seconds. So this is the answer to the third part of this question. So this question has 3 separate parts, kind of asking 3 questions in one. We had to write an equation of a line, interpret the slope, and then answer the question about how long the asteroid took. All right, next question is kind of asking us for the same thing. Yeah. So it says the graph shows the remaining balance Y on a car loan after making X monthly payments. So Y is talking about the balance, X is talking about the monthly payments. Write an equation of a line and interpret the slope and the y-intercept. So the first thing we want to do is write the equation of a line. That's going to be the first part of this question. So let's write our equation of a line in slope-intercept form. We have y equals mx plus b. We need to find the m and find the b. How could I find the slope here? Rise over run, so we can count. I'm going down 3. Yeah. So -3 would be our rise. And then our run, we go to the right 10. So just be careful looking at the units on the graph. So here each tick mark is 3 on the y, but each one's 5 on the left, on the x. So our slope would be -3 over 10. What's our b? Where do we cross the y-axis? 18. Awesome. So let's plug it in. Our equation of a line is going to be y equals -3 over 10x plus 18. So So that's the first answer. Next, let's interpret the slope. So looking at our slope, -3/10, -3, the y value, is talking about what? What does our graph say the y is talking about? Thousands of dollars. So -3, thousands of dollars. And what's the 10 talking about? What's our x? Number of payments. So our balance, do you think it's increasing or decreasing for the balance of our car loan? What's our graph doing? Decreasing. So our balance is decreasing $3,000 every 10 payments. Let's find out when we divide these how much it's decreasing each payment. So we want to actually divide our slope to find out what it's doing each payment. So we have -3 divided by 10. And 10 doesn't go into -3, so we need to add a decimal point. 10 goes into -30, -3 times, -0.3 times. So we would say the car loan decreases $0.3,000 each payment. So that's the second part of our question. The third part says, what is the remaining balance after 36 payments? 36 payments, do you think I'm going to plug 36 into the x or the y? The x, because x is talking about the number of payments. So number of payments is my x value. So I'm going to plug 36 into x. So I have y is equal to -3/10 times 36 plus 18. So here we have 36 times -3 divided by 10 would give us -10.8 plus 18. So that would be 7.2. So the remaining balance after 36 payments would be $7.2 thousand. Example 5. Example 5 is a little bit different than what we've been doing, but same idea. So 2 prom venues charge a rental fee plus a fee per student. The table shows the total cost for different numbers of students at Lakeside Inn. So the table is talking about one school, which is Lakeside Inn. The total cost Y in dollars for X students at Sunview Resort is represented by the equation. So Sunview Resort, the other school, is represented by an equation. It says, which venue charges less per student? So that's the first question we're going to answer. Which venue charges less per student? To see what they charge per student, we're looking for the slope for each of our 2 things that we have for each school. So for Sunview Resort, what's our slope here? 10. So Sunview Resort is charging $10 per student. Now for Lakeside Inn, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to find what our slope here is, because we can think about the number of students as our x, the total cost as our y. So we're going to take 2 of these and treat them as points. So we're going to have x1, y1, and x2, y2. So we're going to use our slope formula. So our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So when we plug that in, we get 1800 minus 1500 over 125 minus 100. So our slope is going to be 300 over 25. 300 divided by 25 would be 12. Awesome. So our slope is 12. So here it's going to be $12 per student. So which venue charges less per student? Sunview Resort. So less per student would be Sunview Resort. Because we said Sunview Resort charged $10 per student. Now let's answer the second part of this question. It's how many students must attend for the total cost to be the same? So we're going to find our two equations for each of the schools or each of the venues and see where they're the same, so we want to set them equal to each other. So Sunview Resort already has an equation for that venue. We want to come up with an equation for Lakeside Inn. So for Lakeside Inn, I have the slope, I have M, and I have a point. I have my x1 and y1, so I can plug this into point slope form. So I have y minus, what's my y1? $1,500, which is equal to m, which is 12, times x minus x1, which is 100. So here we have point slope form. I want to put this into slope-intercept form to make it the same as the other equation. So what would I need to do to change this to be slope-intercept form? Perfect. Awesome. We're going to distribute the 12 first to the x and the 100. So it'd be 12x minus 1200. And then we want to add the 1500. So we get y equals 12x plus 300. So now we have two equations. We have this one, y equals 10x plus 600, and this one, y equals 12x plus 300. So I'm going to set those equal to each other. So I'm using substitution here. So I have 10x plus 600 is equal to 12x plus 300. Because it's asking for where the cost would be the same, so we set them equal. So here, how would I solve for x? Subtract the 10. So subtract 10x. Move it to the other side. I can also subtract 300. Move it to the other side. So we get 300 is equal to 2x. Last step, divide by 2. So x is equal to 150. So 150 students must attend for the total cost to be the same.